Hi, everyone. Welcome back to AfroExpats. This is Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with Suki. She lives in Oaxaca, and we've met each other online as I'm meeting everyone online, and some people I get to meet in person. Anyway, I just find it interesting to share information about people that are living around Mexico, what brought them to where they are. And I also want to enlighten folks on just other cities, places that people can go and either visit, or if they're considering moving to Mexico, here's where they are, or here's where I am. And it just gives a lot more insight and resources for us to tap into and share our experiences and, just what we love about it or don't love about it, or whatever it is that brought us to that space and why we decided to live there. So I'm really, really excited to speak to Suki because she's the first person I've gotten to speak to on my interviews in my Lifetime series about Oaxaca. I've been to Oaxaca often. I used to go to Hualtuco way back in the day. I say way back in the day, 10 years ago. And I know it's changed and I haven't been there recently as far as the city goes. So I would love to hear more about it. So go ahead and tell us about yourself, Suki.
Well, thank you for having me. So I'm Suki, like you mentioned. I live in Oaxaca with my family. So it's myself, my husband, my 7-year-old son. We also have a 25-year-old daughter who's here. She just lives in her own space here. Okay. And then we have a second son. He's in college, but he's also mentioned that he's probably going to end up coming this way when he graduates. So it might end up being my entire family by the time that we're done.
I love that. Okay, and where's your son that's in college? Where is he now?
He goes to Colorado College, so he's in Colorado. So he just stayed on campus actually throughout everything. So he just hasn't left campus for the last 2 years, basically.
Oh, wow. Okay. And how long have you been in Oaxaca?
So we're coming up on a year in Oaxaca.
Okay.
And 2 different parts of Oaxaca. So we spent a couple of months in Puerto Escondido on the coast, and then the rest of the time in Oaxaca City. Okay.
And what did you think about Puerto Escondido? Then we can kind of transition back because I've been there.
Yeah, so it's good for if you want to hang. I find that there are places that this is where I'm going to go live. And then this is where I'm going to go for maybe an extended vacation. So it's a beach town and it has what beach towns have. Great sand, the waves are a little tricky for little kids. So I don't know that I would ever call it a beach for you to go to with your kids. If you want to do that, I would probably recommend you go to Hualtuco and you go to one of the bays there. But it was good. The people were nice. I loved it just aesthetically, but in terms of living, that's why we had to leave because I do work, and it was even the internet here might get a little tricky sometimes, but over there it's just impossible. So it wasn't good for that, but it was a really nice time to take a couple of months and just be a beach bum. So that's what we were beach bums for 2 months.
That's awesome. So just so people understand, Oaxaca is a state, but in the state of Oaxaca, you're along the west coast, so the Pacific Ocean, correct?
So we are west. We're central. Where I am is literally central Oaxaca City. Right. But Puerto, is on the west.
Okay, so Puerto Escondido is kind of along the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and it goes for a while. It's close to Hualtuco, which is, I think, further southeast, and then Acapulco is in the opposite direction. So just so people have, because that's the frame of reference, just Oaxaca State as a state goes, it hosts Oaxaca City, which is where you live now, but it also has beautiful ocean and beautiful beaches, very, very natural. I've spent a lot of time there as well, mostly in Hualtuco and like Puerto Escondido, Mazunte, and Zipolite. I went once to Puerto Escondido, but just so people understand like the vastness of Mexico. So so tell me about Oaxaca City now, because I have not been there for a long time and I've heard it's really beautiful and amazing.
Yeah, no, I don't know it from what it was before. So I've talked to people who've been here before. So it's growing. and it's just interesting, you know, there are, I mean, I love it. I don't know, I can't even say enough about it. Every time I go out, there's another place that I've never seen before. What I actually love about Oaxaca is how it's completely unassuming. You'll be walking by and there'll be this decrepit building and you're just like, oh, you know, like how come they don't get rid of the graffiti? And then they open their doors and there's this oasis inside and there's fountains and just all this stuff. So when the city at night is closed and all the doors are closed, I can't even say it's that pretty. But during the day, when everyone opens up their doors, I mean, it's just beautiful. The art galleries, just the attention that they pay to, you know, the detail and the little things. Like, I'm so surprised, and it's been a year, and I still have experiences where I'm like, oh, okay. I go out more often than I should, I'm sure, and I eat out more than I should. You know,
me too.
Next year, I promise myself. So 2022, I'm gonna start cooking. But I still have, so I have restaurants that are my favorites, and then I still am discovering new ones. So I just don't even have time for all of it. And then after I go a few times in places, I went back to a breakfast place that I had been going to for a little bit. And the woman was like, oh my God, I missed you. I thought you went back. And then she rattled off my regular order to me. And she was like, how are the kids and what have you? So it's a very, you know, it's small enough that, and I guess there's so few of us here that, you know, I am recognizable and they will absolutely remember my order, remember how I like to have my fold clothes, you know, how I like my shoes, you know, I might walk by the guy who does the cleaning and he's like, hey, you haven't been here in a month, you know, so it's still small enough that people remember you, but not so small that there aren't very like specific zones. Oaxaca's outskirts are growing incredibly. I mean, they're San Felipe de Agua basically looks like, I don't know, a community in the States. I mean, and that's just what they've been doing. So they're building a lot of homes there, extremely modern, you know, gated communities, all of that. They're also doing that to the west a little bit. I'm watching every day different complexes and big box stores and that kind of thing go up. So that's not that great in my mind, but what I appreciate about Oaxaca is because Central is completely built, Central will never change its culture. You know? So, you know, you can change your insides. You know, nobody's going to say anything to you, but that sense of the villagers come down in the community around Zocalo, that's not going to change. So even as Oaxaca around me, I'm watching change, there's that culture is still going to be there. And Oaxaca is going through a bit of I don't want to say resurgence because I don't know if it was ever a surge in the first place, but they're almost finished building a highway that's going to connect us to the beach. So right now, it's
you don't have to do that everlasting windy road that makes you sick to your stomach. Okay.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I did the road, you know, so I was actually good. I wasn't so sick. But my daughter definitely had to take the trampoline. And it, you know, it's beautiful. It's just, you know, you're looking down and there's no guardrails. And you're like, okay,
I remember. I mean, I think for me, it was, if I wasn't driving, it was definitely a struggle, or if I wasn't at least in the front passenger seat. And it would be a lot quicker, right? With a straightaway highway.
With a straightaway. So it's supposed to be about 2 hours to get there, which would be great, and a straight road. So not the winding that we're going through now. So supposedly it's supposed to be finished next March.
Okay.
I say end of the year because I don't buy it, you know. But
yeah, it's always longer than they say.
Yes. So, but once that happens, that's going to really be, you know, because for me, you know, sometimes I do like the idea, like, you know, I would just love to just go to the beach sometimes for the day trip, but the 5 hours is not conducive to a day trip. But once they do you know, you have to collect yourself for about another 5 hours before you can kind of go out anyway.
That's true.
The 2 hours would actually work out really nicely. I know I'll probably spend at least one weekend a month, probably heading down, because we only get rain, you know, 2 months out of the year, and we don't get hurricanes or anything like that.
Right.
So, you know, the worst thing for us is maybe it rains a lot, but we don't have any other calamities, you know, I guess other than your occasional earthquake. We don't have really other calamities.
Right.
You know, here. So really 10 months out of the year, I could plan to go to the beach every weekend, and it's not going to be a big deal.
Right. And just so people know, and this is my personal opinion, but I've been to several beaches, not all beaches or areas in Mexico, but quite a few. And I still think that area has the most beautiful beaches. I just feel like it's so natural, it's untouched, it's clean. You can find a lot of private bays, a lot of beaches that there are not a lot of people hanging out. It's not overdeveloped. You're not going to run into overcrowding of resorts, and it's still very untouched, and it's just beautiful. I mean, I was there in October of last year, and I had not been there for probably, I don't even know, 6, 7, 8, 9 years or something like that. And I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, it still looks the same. Even Huatulco, I mean, Huatulco was a little bit built out, which is on the beach, just in case anyone wants to know. We'll post a little bit more information in the description, because the way we're saying it does not how you spell it, right? Same with Oaxaca.
Yes.
Oaxaca is actually OAX. So just so you know, from the English standpoint, it doesn't sound anything like the way it's spelled. But when I was in Huatulco last October, the city had grown a little bit, but not crazy, and it still felt the way it felt 5, 6, or 10 years ago. So I think that it's, a nice part of Mexico that has not been subjected to overdevelopment. And I think a lot of that may have to do with the way they are governed, possibly.
Yes. So one thing that I know will never happen in Oaxaca, we just won't be overcome by resorts. The land and topography doesn't lend itself to that. And a lot of the villages, it's communal land.
True.
So you can go live there, but first of all, you have to ask permission from the people in the villages, and then they have to accept you. And then you have to understand that as a part of the village, you have to do village work.
Exactly.
So one year you might be the sheriff.
Exactly. Next year,
you're the landscaper. Yeah. So
that's right.
it's not for everybody at all. So because there's so much communal land, the villages are very, I went to a market the other day, and the different women from the different villages wear garb that clearly identifies their village. And they still speak Zapotec. So they turn to each other, they speak to each other in their own, Zapotec, and then they'll come back to you and they'll speak to you in Spanish. So they're very, very serious about holding on to their culture. So it's just not a place that's conducive for resorts, and they're not this is probably one of the places that has the least, I don't want to say it's not respect for police authority, it's more like, you do your job, but we're going to take care of our own type of attitude. They're around, but it's really the people who will be enraged if somebody robs somebody, they will be like, we have to go take care of it. It's not the first thing where it's, even when they have protests here, there's not even police around. I mean, it just doesn't happen. Protesters go, and that's it. And when they're finished, they go back home. And, and even the police know, no point showing up. Because you're not wanted, and they will shut. So that's one thing that bothers people about Oaxaca, because they are very activist. So I think I saw a protest on my way dropping off my son from school. I saw a bunch of people gathered at Parque Liano, and I was like, oh, there's a protest today. So I'm gonna have to leave 10 minutes early, probably take another road to go and get him. So it's just, so I actually have in my mind, they call them bloques. I have a bloque time thing. I leave about 10, 15 minutes for the unexpected bloque.
Right.
To have to go
Oaxacan
route.
Traffic.
That's it. So I'm mentally prepared. So I'm like, okay, I need 10, 15 minutes just to make sure. So I don't schedule anything. If I have to go out, I just don't schedule anything around that time. That's actually part of the reason I chose to live where I live. So right now I live in Central. And I've lived in 3 different parts of Oaxaca City so far. I've lived further away from Central, so much more residential. I've lived kind of a halfway point around the Cascada Reforma area, and then I'm in Central now. When I first got here, because it was kind of COVID time, there was really no traffic. I could go in and out of places, so things were pretty easy. Now that more people are coming back, the traffic has gotten to be more serious. And so for me, being in Central, I can walk to everything, so I walk, I'm on the hunt for furniture right now. I walk to the furniture store, then I walk to the supermarket, then I can walk to a restaurant in Central, so I don't have to get into a taxi at all to get to where I need to go. So I've been walking probably a couple of miles a day just because, I look at the taxi and I think, okay, I could go sit in there. Right. I might as well just walk it. And so I walk to everywhere. And it's definitely something, my husband and I have been thinking a lot about where we live and how we want to live. Right. One thing I didn't want to get back into is the whole house to car, car to house, right? Kind of thing. And we used to, when we were, not house, it's been a long time now, but we used to go for like walks for an hour a day, but we always had to schedule it. Right. It was like, okay, it's like, it's like walking the dog. Right. It's time to go walk now, but now walking is just a part of everything that we're doing daily. Right. And it's so a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice because you can easily do that because you're in an area. A lot of the locals, that's what they do. Like most people don't have cars. It's just, it's not affordable necessarily. It's not necessary, or it's not a cost that they want to incur. But I find that here I see people walking, and I'm talking like long distances to get from A to B. So I think that that's also a part of what also is a part of the culture that keeps people healthier as well. You're outside, you're breathing fresh air or fresher air than just being in air conditioning or driving around all the time in your car. So I find that people here are typically not, overweight because there's a lot of activity, physical activity. Yes. This is 100% true. By the time you finish doing the walking, and I really like it here because the weather's really fantastic, and we've been a lot of different places with, kind of ranges of weather. So we've been in the pass out hot humidity. We've been in the, okay, it's really cool. So here, I can, I used to, like in Puerto, I would walk, but I'd have to be done by about 9:30 in the morning because, the humidity was gonna, in Puerto. Oh, okay. Yeah, in Puerto by 9:30, the humidity was too much for me. So that was pretty much the beginning and ending, or I would have to walk at like 7:30 or 8 at night because during that daytime, it was just tough. Here I could leave at 12:30 and go for an hour walk and it'll be fine. So the mountain, I guess it's because of the mountain air, it's dry. And I finally figured out the Mexican system because I have an umbrella. I go out with my umbrella, rain or shine. So the sun comes out and I'm like, right. My umbrella's out. So I don't play with the heat bearing down on me. But I'd be looking and I'm like, well, how come it's me and 2 other people with an umbrella, but everybody else seems to be okay. So they've got a whole system about walking on the side of the street with the shade. Yeah. So I still have my umbrella because I know the other side of the sun street is going to be clear. Right. So it's me and the 3 other people with the umbrellas are on that side of the street and everybody else on the shaded side. But if I forget my umbrella, I already know what to do. So I'm all right. It's fine. And so people understand too where you are. The Oaxaca city is in the mountains. What's your elevation there? I actually have no idea. I've never actually looked it up. Oh, okay. Okay. Because we're about 6,300 feet above sea level. So we have a lot of that mountain weather as well. So it's pretty comfortable year round. We're in the middle of rainy season, so it cools down quite a bit and it's pretty comfortable up here in general. Yeah. But we're probably about the same because I can't maybe. Yeah, when we were in Quito, so Quito's got one of the highest elevations in the world, and that one you could feel it. Like in Quito and Ecuador. Ecuador, yeah. Okay. And you could feel as you're walking. You could, if you're not used to that, you could feel that thin air. Yes, I've been there. I've been to Cuenca, Quito, and yes, it's a change. You get lightheaded probably the first week, 2 weeks. Yep. My son had serious altitude sickness. Oh wow. That first week, and we didn't even know that he had that until we got to Quito. And then Cuenca was a little better. It was still high, but it was better. But here, so I use my son as my elevation meter. So he came here and he was good. There've been no issues. So I was like, in my mind, I said to myself, well, we must be lower than Cuenca. And that's as much as I know about our elevation.
So tell me about your son, because I also have a son, and we came here when he was 6. How's it been for him transition wise?
So he's been great. I mean, he's been traveling with us to different countries since he was born. So he doesn't have there's no idea in his mind that this is not normal. Okay. And he's never had an idea in his mind that, like, he's always heard people speaking different languages, and he's always understood that sometimes he's not going to understand. So he's just been comfortable with that. So he's not uncomfortable at all with not knowing what someone is saying. Now that we've been here, he goes to school. I mean, his Spanish is really, it's gotten impressive. I mean, I've turned to him a couple of times and been like, how do you say this to your teacher? So he's
I do that too.
Yeah, I'm like, I have no idea what we're talking about. And sometimes it's funny, the teacher will turn to him and tell him in Spanish and say, how do you say this in English? So, but what we're talking about is beyond his, level of comprehension. Right. So it doesn't always work, but he's definitely very comfortable. So we're moving now to a space where I want him to start understanding the grammar a little bit more. Okay. So we're just doing English and Spanish grammar simultaneously. So he can get, how to conjugate the verbs and all of that. And it really is for me to learn anyway. So I'm teaching him, but it's really my notebook on the side where I'm like, okay, this is the O, this is the A. Right. As we're working on it. Yeah. So it's been really good.
That's awesome. And how do you think he fits in terms of just his comfortability with other local children?
Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. He's always been probably the only, African child. So he's never, so for him, it's just a very normal thing. All the countries were always South American or Central American. So what he's seeing for him is very normal. He doesn't perceive that there's anything abnormal. And he's very, and they always do this, oh, your hair, rubbing his head,
my
that
son
kind of
gets
thing.
that. Not so much now, but in the beginning, maybe they know us, like you said, it's kind of a small town. So they're like, oh, there they are again. That people, but it was always I know that can be offensive for us in our culture, especially women, we're like, don't touch my hair. But I always found it to be more of like curiosity, and it was never negative. It never felt weird. And, I would always ask him, is it okay with you, for them to touch your hair? But he just always was just like, what's the big deal?
Well, he's been so used to it for so long that, like, for him, it's like he feels loved, so he's never felt uncomfortable or anything like that. So, he hasn't spent, he's spent time in the United States, but he's spent more time out of it than in it.
Right.
So he does not have a strong, like, racial sense.
Right.
For him, people are different and that's it. So it's not like, people are different and they're characterized or anything, like that. So he just, I'm sure there's one day it'll start to, come to him. I'm going to plug myself in because I see my computer telling me that it's
hold on
1 second.
That's fine. Take your time.
Okay, perfect.
You're frozen a little bit.
Am I still? Maybe I should turn my recording on and off. I see it red.
Let me see.
I see yellow.
Okay. So so tell me a little bit, is it comfortable for him? Is he going to school?
Yes.
Okay, how's that going?
He goes to school, so he goes to an alternative school. It's a Waldorf school. Nice. And so it's really good. They're outside all the time. They learn through, poems and things like that. So it's just been really great. And it's a mix of, I say mixed loosely, it's probably 20% expats and the rest are Mexican. But it is Spanish. So it is a completely Spanish school. His teacher speaks no English whatsoever. So we Google Translate.
So it's not bilingual. He's definitely going to pick up on Spanish. pretty quickly when they have that full immersion. I think it
Yes.
helps them adapt, especially if he's social. My son's social,
Yeah.
so he had that need to communicate. Even
Yes.
though here I can say in San Miguel, there's definitely a crutch. We have a crutch because a lot of people speak English, and a lot of the schools, even the Waldorf and all alternative schools, they are all bilingual. They teach half English, half Spanish. I mean, it's good for the students, but as far as the parents, I feel like, you know, it's very comfortable for us to just keep speaking English, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's definitely uncomfortable for us because even when we have a teacher meeting on Thursday and we have to prepare, right? We have to like look through our notes and be ready to, you know, do the translate. So I know it's going to be an hour,
Yeah.
not because it needs to be, but because it's going to take us the time to translate. So, but I
Yeah.
promised them, I was like, next year I'll be better. I promise you. You know?
That's
So,
awesome. I love it.
yeah, and that, I will have to say that about Oaxaca as well. To, you know, to your point, it is not, you know, if you have no intention of really learning Spanish, it's probably not the place for you.
Exactly.
Because,
I agree.
yeah, people here will, they're very nice. So I all day long, I'm asking people, you know, como se dice, como se llamara. So they will, and everyone will ask, like act like the teacher. So they have no problem telling me how to say it, giving me the pronunciation, all of that. But they are not trying to do this thing in English with me at all.
No,
know? So
not at all. Not at all.
they'll just
And
wait.
I don't think a lot of people even really have had that exposure. You know, I mean, I feel that here it's been maybe even forced on because there were so many expats that started migrating here 30 years ago. And so it's sort of like, you know, now that we're moving forward into newer generations, a lot of the 20-something-year-olds, the teenagers, the 30-something-year-olds, they speak English because it was probably, oh, well, you know, we want our kids to get jobs and we want them to be able to communicate with all these folks that are coming here and gentrifying this area. So yeah, you know, we're somewhat a part of the problem that I agree. Oaxaca definitely doesn't strike me as this anytime soon. I don't
know.
Anytime soon. Yeah.
It depends on where you go. Like I went to a place, Cocoa Beach, yesterday. So they spoke English, but the area of town they're in is just all condos, and it's like a big Canadian expat, you know, area. So if you want, you can actually probably go to those places where they frequent that, but also get ready to pay, right? So
that's right.
The same meal is going to cost, it's going to cost you double than what it would cost you someplace else.
Right.
You know? So there is a trade-off for the English part of it. But I find the immersion to be, you know, for me, it's good, right? Every day I have to practice, right? Because there's someone that I have to speak to and I have to speak to them in Spanish, and to their, you know, to their benefit, no one ever laughs.
No, they don't. No, they don't. I mean, I have people that are a little firmer about correcting me and they will continue. And I'm fine with that. I'm like, sure, tell me what it is. And then others that are just like, okay, we get you. Or even, I think the most difficult thing is having a telephone conversation because I can understand maybe 50 or 60% of what they're saying. And then sometimes they're just talking so fast. And, you know, I'm just like, okay, I just got a couple of, I think I know what they're saying. Like yesterday, I was trying to make a reservation for something we're doing this weekend. And I asked the lady, I always ask politely, you know, I start with my Mexican greetings and then I switch quickly to hablas inglés. And then I either get sometimes poquito or no, or yes, or whatever. But this woman said a little bit, no, she said no, not at all. And I was like, proceeded in Spanish. And then it just, because you know there's like certain things that kind of follow, you know. There's the whatever the conversation is about, you know, how much is it, so you're expecting a number answer, what day, what time, you're expecting those kind of generic answers. But then when they start saying a whole bunch of, I'm like, okay, no entiendo, like, you know, or say it slower or whatever. So it's always funny on the phone. It's comedy, actually. So I've had people hang up on me. I'm just like,
yeah, I definitely avoided the phone conversations. You know, the taxi, we've got it down now, you know, so I'm good, but it took some time to, you know, and sometimes she probably says something different, but I'm very focused what's the taxi number?
Right.
And, you know, how much time
Just
is it
keep
going to take for
repeating
them to get
yourself.
here? Yeah,
Exactly.
so
Just keep
this is what I
repeating.
need to know.
Yeah.
And this other stuff you're telling me
is unnecessary.
I mean, maybe it's important. I don't know, but I know what's important to me right now is that
That's
I know when the
true.
taxi will get here,
That's
and I know
true.
what number's going to get me.
That's
So
hilarious. That's so true.
yeah,
It's like you just stay on your thing and
yep,
they're on theirs. You're like, nope, reel them right on back. This is what I need
yep,
to know.
yes.
So yeah. So tell me a little bit, because you mentioned earlier about like I guess the suburbs of Oaxaca. How far out is it? You know, what is that looking like? Does it feel un-Mexican or, you know?
It does. So it's not very far. You know, again, if you're a walker, you know, a good half hour, it's a nice walk, you know, into Central. It does feel like un-Mexican a little bit, you know, it's,
Yeah.
you know, and there's the Starbucks and, you know, it's, by the time you start getting, and the thing is, it might be un-Mexican, but it's still very beautiful, you know, so
Right.
you walk in and so these houses, this is like America. It's beautiful on the outside too.
Mhm.
So you're seeing beautiful gates and just beautiful streets.
Mhm.
And then they open their doors. I'm always in everybody's business when they open their door. Like if I see somebody with a key and they're about to open their door, I will absolutely slow down so I could time myself to when their
Right.
door is going to be open so I can see inside. And it's beautiful, you know, so it's very beautiful. And I get it kind of, you know, on the one hand, if you're moving someplace for the long term, you're probably saying to yourself, there are certain inconveniences that it's not necessary for me to go through, right? I probably shouldn't fight with my hot water heater, you know, and I fought with the hot water heater, so I know, you know, and it gets old, you know, so you probably, like at first, when you're just visiting and you're getting to a place, you're willing to deal with some of the idiosyncrasies, but then as you start living, you kind of start saying to yourself, I'm not interested in seeing, you know, yes, this is a historical house, but there's mold, you know, on the wall. And it's like, okay, you know, do I really want to see this mold on the wall?
Right.
And, you know, even the sounds, you know, you can't do anything about the dogs. So that's just going to be, it's a dog choir no matter where you go.
Right.
But in certain places, yeah, so it's just all day long. Sometimes I feel like saying, you know, one dog, I try to walk further across the street because I know if he starts, the whole crew
all start
is gonna go crazy. So I'm just like, please, you know me, you've seen me for 6 months, you know me. Yeah. So so I live right now across the street from a restaurant, and it's been very quiet. And then for some reason, Friday night, all these people just started coming to the restaurant. It was like it was a party, it was a full-fledged party. And I'm watching all these people come in until my husband says, you think that's a club? And so now I start thinking, you know what? You know, it might be right. They might have been closed for COVID and they might be a club. And then I was like, well, if they're a club, let's just get dressed and go. I was like, they don't know the difference. I was like, no, they're going to notice that we probably are not, you know, he was like, what if it's a private party? I was like, no, we'll just crash it. He's like, no, they'll probably notice. And they would. So a good thing I listened to him because we did go by the restaurant the next day and we asked the lady and she said it was a private event. So yes, we would have definitely been turned away at the door. But it was unexpected that this was, and this went on to like 4 o'clock in the morning. Wow. I mean, this went on for quite a bit of time. So it's a trade-off. On the one hand, I love where I am. I walk to everything, you know, there's literally nothing I can't find. But on the other hand, some random person is going to have a party from time to time.
That's true. Fireworks, dogs barking, and roosters crowing. I mean, those are like the normal things here. I mean, if you and you hear them more, like you said, if you're in Central, you're probably going to get the fireworks, the dogs barking, and someone probably has a rooster on their roof. Somebody's
got a rooster. I see the dogs all the time. I wave in the morning. So there, you're not gonna have that, right? They don't have the roosters there. They have less dogs. Yeah. They have. They definitely don't hear the fireworks by the time you're there. So it's definitely quieter. And where they're building, particularly in San Felipe de Agua, you have an unobstructed view of the mountains.
Oh, nice.
So basically, everyone's house can see the mountains versus here, I have to go. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like I'm struggling. I mean, I just have to go up to the terrace to see the mountains. So it's not a big deal. You know, I can, you know, 6 in the morning, I can go up and, you know, have a 360 mountain view, but I have to kind of go up to do that. you know, so it is a question for you. That's why I kind of always recommend to people live in the different zones for 6 months.
Right, before you commit fully.
Yeah, before you commit, because once you commit, you know, you might find you hate, you know, having a car is cool until you're sitting in traffic for 20 minutes. And then, and forget the traffic, it's where you're gonna park your car. I mean, even the garages, the doors are like really big, you know?
Yeah,
and
you need like a smart car.
You do, you know? So I look at some of these big cars and I know that there are places they can't go. There's certain streets they cannot turn down because it's just not gonna work.
That's true.
So, you know, and gas is actually a little bit more expensive than
Mexico.
it would be in the, so it's not even, I mean, it's very convenient for things like, oh, I'm gonna drive down to the beach for a day trip and then I'm gonna come back. So I am getting a car and it'll be for bigger trips like that. I want to go to the mountains, if I want to go to places that are the different villages, but in the city, I will not be touching that car. It will be sitting inside the garage.
That's true. I mean, here we have a vehicle, but you know, we do a lot of road trips and stuff like that, just carretero to get, you know, to shop and things like this. But yeah, if you're closer to the central, you really, really do not need a car, especially pre-COVID. I was taking the bus into town because it was just more convenient. It was easy. You know, they drop you off where you need to go, you walk around and get your stuff, and then you hop back on and then you just walk down the street to your house. So it was pretty cool. But like with Oaxaca, people know like city, it's a city, you know, because I remember going there to buy stuff at Costco's. They have Costco's there. I don't know why Costco's for me symbolizes like, oh, they've got it going on. It's so silly, but I remember, you know, being excited about going there to get stuff and driving it down to the beach, because I would spend a lot of time down at the beach through that windy mountain. But you know, it's a good sized city. I think that it definitely hosts a very authentic Mexican experience if you're looking for this. There are a lot of traditions that are not lost with modern, you know, life and styles. I mean, maybe now they're building more outside of the city center, but I remember just going there and it just felt like I was really, truly in Mexico. And I feel that way in a lot of places, but just, you know, like you said, there are a lot of the indigenous people who sell their handmade things. And I love that it's not lost in like a giant market with everything that says made in China on it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not. And they're kind of gangster about, you know, pointing that out and just telling people it's real and authentic. And yes, they definitely hold on. You know, I've been to the different villages. We've done some paintings, some black pottery. So they still, you know, and what I really appreciate, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. When we go to the villages and do the different, you know, whether it's the black pottery or whatever it is, we see them showing it to their children.
Right.
So like their kids are part of the process. So it's already going to the next generation. My favorite one, we went to a rug making place and, you know, they're doing the rugs and they showed us how they do the dye and how they get, you know, all the stuff. And, you know, and it's like real rural. I mean, I don't even know if rural is the right word because they don't have electricity. I mean, there's just nothing going on there. And then I hear beep, beep, and I'm thinking, oh, is this my phone? So I look, it's not my phone, it's theirs.
Right.
So now I'm like, okay, so we don't have electricity, but we have phones. What are we doing?
Everyone has a cell phone, girl. When I was in Jamaica, the fisherman on his little boat, they had cell phones. I was just like, okay, this was years and years ago. Everyone has a cell phone.
Yeah, so it was bizarre, but I was like, all right. And then we left and I was like, all right, you know, well, if I want to get another one, how can you know, how do I get in touch with you? Do you guys have a phone number? And the little kid's like, oh yeah, let me give you our Instagram. And I was like, all right.
Love it.
You know,
modern technology, girl. I know it's so weird, right? It's just kind of like one extreme to the other. But I think it is a beautiful thing that things are not getting lost in their way of their traditions and things like that. Because when I was in Oaxaca, I was in the state of Oaxaca, but Huatulco last October, they had the, I think it was a guy, he was a woman, I can't remember, but they had the shop where they were making the carpet and the weaving, and it's very detailed, you know, like I can't find that around here because it's not from here, you know, originally. And I think that that's very interesting. I also took a mole Oaxacan cooking
Ah,
class, and that was very
mhm.
interesting as well. That's very popular there, and I think
Oh
it
yeah.
originates from Oaxaca as well.
Yeah, it does. I've incorporated moles into our food basically. So because moles
Nice.
is just another version of sauce.
Mhm.
So my go-to for 35, maybe 40, I don't know that here. Should I date myself? Yes. My go-to for 43 years was just, different red sauces. And then I
Mhm.
came to Oaxaca and they've got all these different sauces. So now in
Yeah,
my closet, I've got all the moles lined up and it just
love it.
depends on what we're making that day. But there's always a sauce in my
Right,
house.
right.
So it's either a sauce or it's a mole, but it's really fantastic. So the ladies
I
know
love
me
it.
kind of need, yeah. So you learn to adopt some things, and then
Mhm.
even the language changes. So I go
Mhm.
to we were at some restaurant the other day, and the guy's offering us salsa, and he was like, con chapulines, and I was like, no, sin chapulines, and I
Mhm.
had to laugh at myself because I was like, I just imagine this in English. Somebody says to me, do I want salsa with
With
grasshoppers?
grasshopper, I know,
And,
right?
and and then I would be like, oh no, no grasshoppers, thanks though. Like that's just
I
a
know.
bizarre
You're like, I'm
conversation.
so international.
Yeah, it's like, this is a ridiculous conversation we're having right now.
I
Because
know.
you're asking me in all seriousness, do I want grasshoppers in my salsa?
Right.
And I'm answering you with all seriousness, then no,
Right.
it's
Like, no
okay.
biggie. No, not
No, no
today.
big
Maybe
deal.
tomorrow with
Maybe tomorrow we'll do
guacamole.
some grasshopper legs or something. And that's just
Yeah,
ridiculous.
that's hilarious. I
I'm like,
love it though.
it's been interesting to
Mhm.
you hear and you watch your language change. I always tell people, this is why I tell people to try out the different places.
Mhm.
The person you were before you get to Mexico is not going to be who you're going to be.
Right.
And you don't know that person yet. So you need to come here, become that person, then decide where you want to be. So I'm
Exactly.
always encouraging people, if they can, visit all the different cities, spend 3 to
Exactly.
6 months,
Hmm.
get past the, oh, I love it, it's beautiful, because they're all beautiful, right?
Hmm.
And then now you get to the little, okay, what's working, what's
Hmm.
not, what resonates with me,
Hmm.
and just the logistics of life. For people from the States, we still have family and that kind of thing there.
Hmm.
And eventually you're gonna end up having to go back even for a short period for something. Some
Hmm.
family members gonna need, there's gonna be something.
Right.
And so you've got to think beyond the, oh, I'm just living, and the what happens when you need to go back quickly, what happens when a family member or someone needs something and you need to go for a week or two, how logistically feasible is it?
Hmm.
They're just little things that you start thinking about when you move to the living part that
Right.
I don't think you think about when you first get there. So
Exactly.
if people can avoid it, I always try to tell people to avoid the long-term lease when you first get to a
Right.
place.
Right.
Give yourself some time
Hmm.
to get it out of your system, the joy of being there,
Right.
and then ask yourself how annoyed you are that the sidewalks on the street
Exactly.
are bumpy. Like can you get a street with straighter sidewalks? How much does this matter to you?
Right.
What are your stores and spots? Do you prefer cafes
Hmm.
to restaurants? Do you prefer
Hmm.
local food to restaurants?
Right.
So you got to figure out your thing, and
Right.
then you figure out your place.
Exactly. And I think that's absolutely fantastic advice. I do think that when you feel like you're at home, you're at home, and it takes
Yes.
time, and it doesn't happen all the time instantly. And I think it's also based on your experiences and your other travels. Where have you been
Yes.
that kind of resonates with you? Because yes, we all have a vision. We all have a thing that we imagine this is going to be, and we focus on probably some of the wrong things, where we want some of the conveniences, we want some of the amenities, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But we don't really focus on what's going to be good for my soul and my spirit, and what's going to be good for the energy that is inside of me. And you don't really know that sometimes until you get to a place. And and this is why I like doing this, because I think that everyone has their thing that works for them. I spoke to someone earlier in Querétaro, and she moved years and years ago to Tulum, and she loved it. And then suddenly it wasn't a good fit, anymore. So I think that happens as well.
Yes.
I know that when I visited years and years ago to Hualtuco and along the beach, I just was like, this is not where I want to be, but I remember liking Oaxaca city. And I realized I like being where things are already developed somewhat. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be new or modern, but I wanted to have more people around me, and I wanted to
Yeah.
have more activity and more to look at. And I love old Mexico. I love, when I say old Mexico, like you said, the old buildings,
Yeah.
what they look like when you walk inside. I like
Yeah.
this fusion of modern with really old, and they respect the original walls and the original, stories that go with those walls. But when you go inside, it's a new story. Someone else recreated it. And I like this. And I feel that this gives me that as well. Here, there are plenty of places in Mexico that can give you this, or give you what you're looking
Yes.
for. So I think it's very wise to give yourself a chance to figure it out. And, and if you get somewhere and it's not for you, just, don't root yourself so much, try
Yes.
something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Try
Give
something.
it time. And I look at Oaxaca as like a home base. My travels haven't ended. This is
Right.
my home.
Mhm.
But I still will, every year for a month or two, I will still be going to different cities, different,
Mhm.
countries, and still, my traveling life is not over.
Yeah.
It's just my home base has changed. And there
Mhm.
is a lot here. So you're definitely right. That's something always, so I don't make plans often. Like if I make plans, I make very long term, like 2 weeks from now I'm doing something. But I
Yeah.
could go right now, to Central, and somebody's probably getting married today, and I could go and join the parade, which I
Right.
love. It's
Exactly.
fantastic. And I don't have to feel like I'm crashing, so that's nice.
Yeah.
And it's just really nice. And like you said, it has to speak to you,
Mhm.
and it has to speak to you as an individual.
Right.
I think a lot of questions that I get asked, particularly about Oaxaca, is how many of us are there here?
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting answer, because I don't know exactly. I know the people that I know who are here, and obviously I know the people in the group, but I'm always going out and seeing people. And the other day I was joking to my husband, because we met someone in La Cosecha, and we were walking in, and I saw a group, and I was like, I don't know them. Don't they know they have to check in with me before they get to Oaxaca? Like, what happened?
Like, where'd you come from?
Like, yeah, like, you don't know?
Right.
But they've never heard of the group, and it's fine, it's no big deal.
Mhm.
But people are coming and they're going.
Mhm.
And so it's not, I always, in my mind, the Oaxacan fit is that person who's very comfortable in their own space, their own skin, their own spirituality.
Absolutely.
Who appreciates I'm going to look at the mountain view today. I'm going to go to Central and see the space. And if I happen to see people, that I know, what have you, we speak and whatever, but we're definitely not the let's go out for drinks every night type of crew at all. I mean, that's just not, like, we see each other, we get together, we say it's going to be 2 hours, and it ends up being 5.
Always.
So
that's Mexico.
Yeah, so that's our thing, but we are very independent, I would say, as well. Independent, we go to art galleries and that kind of thing. So we're not we're a community in the sense that, if anything, somebody called me the other day, he was having some stomach issues, and I was like, oh, you want me to bring some activated charcoal? So like we're around for that. Like if you have a problem, if there's some kind of emergency, you need someone to call, your family or whatever, that kind of thing for you, you'll have 1,000 people. No, I exaggerate, because this is Oaxaca, this much less of this. You'll have about 100 people, 100 okay, who will be there, who can help you with your issue and really kind of get things going for you.
Right.
But it's definitely not I'm coming into a pre-existing community that I can kind of just join, and things are already happening and existing with them. The other thing that I tell people, especially as they're traveling around, I never expected, when I went to the different countries, to suddenly have a community to pop into, because I understood that I was transient.
Right.
And when you're the transient person, it's not 100% fair to the people who live there and plan on living there to kind of expect them to accept people coming in and out of their lives, especially if they don't have some kind of business or something.
Right.
So I know people who live here in Oaxaca, Black people who live in Oaxaca, who've lived here for a long time, you know, a decade, but they don't come to any of our meetups or anything like that, because for them, like, this is their home. And it's not a, oh, I'm so excited, you know, to be here, and
right.
we're gonna go out, you know, and let's go see this market, because I go to the market every day, right?
Right.
So, or, you know, once a week. So it's that, you know, the market's exciting for you, but for me, this is just life. I show up to get my teas from the shaman,
right,
because that's what I do, but it's not, you know, it's not anything special, you know. So what I will do, which I know sometimes people probably, they'll be like, oh, Suki, you know, you have some time. So I take people on my errands with me all the time. So people will be like, they're coming to town. I'm like, all right, on Tuesday, I'm going to be going around, and we go do all my errands. So
right.
they only ask me once, because I walk for like hours.
That's funny. I know, right? They're like, oh my God.
No, really,
bring
sometimes they leave me.
Yeah,
Sometimes they're like, okay, so can I take a cab from here? Because I'm like, oh, yeah, a little more. And they're like, oh, you know, I'm not used to this much walking. You know?
Yeah,
So,
but I think it's also a good experience for them to just see what the day-to-day movements are, you know, not just, because I think when we go on vacation, you know, we always are looking for what's the hot spot, what's the best breakfast place, what's the restaurant with blah, blah, or where's their music, or, you know, so I think just kind of doing, like you said, walking around, get your groceries, get your errands, especially if they're interested in moving and being there. That's a different experience, you know, and having someone locally to do that with, I think is also cool. I mean, you know, I sometimes entertain people who are new to San Miguel, you know, but then I realize like, okay, I'm not getting my stuff done either, because I don't necessarily do that. I'm just kind of like driving them around, and I'm showing them, you know, what the outskirts looks like and the different neighborhoods. And I did that with a friend a few weeks ago, which was very cool. And she was just like, wow, this is amazing. She's considering, you know, being in SMA, not full-time per se, but definitely considering coming to San Miguel in the future for a few months or so out of the year. And, you know, I really wanted her to see outside of Centro. And it's not always easy to have someone take you and give you, you know, insight and knowledge and things like that. So I think that that's cool too. I know that you guys do have a little pocket and community there, because there are, I think, 2 expat pages. And I've met Ayana online as well. I met her before. I don't know how, but we met online somewhere before she actually moved into Mexico. And I know that she's, you know, figuring things out, but we were on a committee together for that Martin Luther King fundraising thing they had for Juneteenth. And then I also saw your interview with Anne-Marie, which I also met her online as well. And now she lives here. So yeah, we hang out sometimes as well. But I just find it very interesting because, you know, like I said, years ago, I would say my first visit to Mexico was in 2005. And it was to San Miguel. And then from San Miguel, I went to Huatulco. And, you know, there's like, I don't know that I ever saw another Black person there. I don't remember, you know, I mean, there are definitely Afro-Mexicans, but I'm talking about like someone from the US. And now I find it super interesting that all these places that, you know, I've visited or heard about or whatever, just, you know, now they're like little pockets of us. And I think it's interesting that we're finding these spaces to move to. And also, you know, it's not that we go there looking for others. It's nice to know that, you know, other people are interested in the same things. And that's the part that I like. So in saying all of that, like, did you end up in Oaxaca through research, or did you just kind of go there because you were moving around and you wanted to see where you wanted to live?
Yeah, it was complete happenstance. We had already decided, so we knew we were going to raise our son in the book. So that was, and we knew that around this age, the 6, 7, that we probably needed to settle in a country because he's so used to moving that he's never put roots anywhere. You know, and so we kind of felt like that's probably a mini problem, that it's so easy for him, you know, for us to be like, oh, we're going to another country. He's like, all right, you know, he's packing his bags. And he didn't even feel that, oh, I'm leaving my friends, feeling. you know, and so we just felt like we needed to get more connections.
Mm-hmm.
So before COVID, we actually were going to move to Medellin, Colombia.
Oh, okay.
And we started everything, started the business process, to get my residency. So we were, you know, we were pretty much all in, and we had done several countries, several cities. So at that point we knew what we already had our checklist, what worked, what didn't. And then COVID happened. Colombia completely shut down their borders, and we weren't able to get in, but we were in the States at the time to see my son off to college, and we were basically stuck. So we needed to get out. That was really how we ended up in Mexico. Mexico was actually never on my list, but Mexico was like, bienvenido. So we were like, all right, let's do it, you know, because it like anywhere but here was really our attitude. So we just, and then we were looking for a beach. So Puerto was a little bit of research. It was like, it wasn't very touristy. Like you said, there are not 1,000 people on the beach. It's really mostly, it's locals and then Mexicans, and then you might have a sprinkle, you know, of other people. So that was good. So we were like, all right. So we just really packed our bags. It was a very, we just, you know how they say you gotta go home, but you gotta get, you know, it was like that. You know, we may not be going to Colombia, we just gotta get out of here. And we need to go to a beach. And we just didn't want to kind of do the crowd to where everybody goes. So that's how we ended up in Puerto, but we had no intention of staying. It was supposed to be a 2-3 month beach stop before we went back to Medellin.
Okay.
But then the internet was really bad. I mean, it was just, I couldn't work at all. And somebody said, oh, you should go up to Oaxaca City. The internet is better there. And, you know, a lot of people work there, all of that. So we just packed our bags. It was a very like, all right. And we packed our bags, and we had a mini debate about whether we should take the little 1-engine plane over the mountain or
drive.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to drive because I knew at the time, because my husband's convinced me to drive a few times through different mountains in different countries. It's never gone well. The bus is always faster than I like. And I was like, I'm not doing all that. So we did the whole plane to Mexico City and then Mexico City to Oaxaca.
Oh, okay.
So we landed in Oaxaca, and I still was like, you know, this is a, you know, temporary thing, no big deal. And I think within the first week, I turned to my husband and I was like, we're home.
Nice.
This had, you know, sometimes it takes another place to open your eyes to what you were compromising, because no matter where you're going, you're compromising something.
Always.
So it's a decision about what you're compromising. I loved Medellin. It is such a beautiful city. It's just, you know, it's basically, you know, almost like living in New York City at a fourth of the price, right?
Right.
The recycling, the cleanliness, the Spanish is crisp. It was a lot easier to understand people, you know, so everything was there. The only thing that I was compromising on was safety in a way. And when I say that, I mean, like, you know, they have this expression, no dog in fire. You can't have your cell phone out, really, because, you know, someone may actually come up to you and grab it from you. That's a big difference between I put my cell phone down and someone grabbed it, right? Exactly. Like and that's not great that somebody grabs my phone, but the idea that somebody's going to walk up to me
and grab it out your hand.
Yeah, it's like, it feels like a little bit more like an assault, you know, so your phone has to always be away. You have to be very watchful, always of your surroundings, people on the motorbikes, you know, you can't drive with your window down because someone might reach in and grab your stuff. So I had lived there for a little while, and we were going to live a little outside of the city, but I got used to how you have to be. I got used to the idea that you have to be very toned down in terms of your dress and everything to not bring attention to yourself. But when I got to Oaxaca and I didn't have to do that, and the freedom I felt from not having to do that, I realized that that feeling is what I need to live. Right. You know, you know, it may not be it's not as polished, obviously, as Medellin at all. And that was the other thing that I was missing that I didn't realize, the cultural, you know, part. Like Medellin is such a beautiful city, and it's a very artistic city. So you see a lot of art, and a lot of it's very modern. So, you know, so when they do the graffiti on the walls and all of that, it's beautiful and it's modern art. And I didn't know I was looking for the, you know, the classic beauty, the beauty where you've got to stop for a moment and look. Right. And the idea that you have to look inside for the beauty until I got here. Right. So it was after visiting a bunch of different countries and knowing, and you know, even the, you know, like the one reason we decided no on Panama, and I'm not saying this is all of Panama, obviously, but the different cities we lived, they had like an issue with home invasions. And that for me is ridiculous. I need to sleep, right? I can't,
Right.
you know, it can't
Worry
be
about
nighttime.
someone breaking in your house.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, and because
That's
I always
not cool.
wondered, like, why, and they would do it sometimes during the day, and I never understood that. You know, I'm home, you know, like, why would you do that?
I don't
You
know.
know,
I
so
mean,
you
I
couldn't
think
keep your
it's
door open.
desperation,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I mean, I guess there's a little bit of it, but I think it's a little bit of cultural acceptance too.
True.
Like they accept the idea that people do that, you know, because there are, you know, like there are places where that's just not acceptable. They're not going to accept the idea that someone does that, you know, to you.
Right.
And so for me, if I'm in my house and I can't even have like my window open because someone might try to break in, like I can't live like that, you know. So
I didn't know that about Panama.
yeah, it's not all over. I don't want to speak for the whole country.
No,
you know,
no, I know. I'm just saying yeah, wherever it was that you were, you know, you were susceptible to this.
Yeah.
But I know that was one of the countries we considered, and that wasn't the reason why we, you know, took it off the list. It was just, I don't know, there was just something about it for me. And again, I haven't visited Panama, so there was just a personal kind of like a feeling that I had that I just thought, you know, I'm not sure. I've never been drawn to Panama in general. So it was definitely on our list of places that we were considering because we were doing a lot of homework. I was doing a lot of homework and research, but Mexico was already kind of top of mind because I'd been to Mexico. However, I didn't consider Mexico initially to live. And it's not because I didn't want to live here or I was fearful of living here. It was just, I think in my head, I was just kind of like thinking somewhere else that I haven't been to or somewhere else that might be more interesting. But yeah, Mexico ended up making the most sense for the things on our list. And I like Mexico because of its diversity. You know, you can pick and choose, you know, almost any kind of climate you want to, you know, experience or live in. And I think what you were saying a little bit ago was it has a lot of authenticity to it. And I think that, you know, yes, if you want to be in a modern city, you have that. But I like the idea of Oaxaca because it's still very traditional. And it still feels like you're in Mexico. It's, you know, it holds its traditions and just the way it looks as well. Some people, that's what speaks to you, you know?
Yeah, well, we're definitely in Mexico. There's no question.
Exactly.
You know? And that's why I kind of say people should visit too, because the thing is that Panama keeps the home invasions under wraps.
Yeah.
You don't know about them unless you happen to live there, and then the expat community speaks amongst itself. But it's not something that's publicized at all. Okay. You know, so you would just have no idea that, you know, and one thing I love, you know, I'm Mexico, like, you know, rah rah right now. They don't play games, right? They're gonna put the barbed wire. Because for me, it's like, why are we pretending that? That's what I never understood about Panama. Like, you'll go and you don't see any of that. No wire, no this. But then, you know, you got somebody trying to break into your house. Well, then throw up that gate. You know,
exactly.
What are you doing? No,
protect
get your
that
gate
window.
Going, put your thing around, and let's not pretend that there's not an issue here. So that was kind of the biggest thing for me. It was, you know, there's an actual issue, and yet the homes do not reflect at all this issue. So if you look,
it's accepted.
You're like, oh, yeah, it's just way too accepted, and that made no sense to me. I love the little gate thing, you know. That's why I'm always in people's business, right? I'm waiting looking at the gate because you can't see anything. You walk down the street.
It's the same here. It's the same here. Like you really can't. But part of it is just the way the city was built. But you can't see anything, you know. And like you said, when COVID hit and when the city shuts down at night, it doesn't look like anything, you know, until they start opening things up and you're like walking by, you're like, whoa, there's a whole courtyard in there. There's a whole big house in there, you know. It's very unassuming. And I like that. I feel like there's so much to see. I've lived here for 3 years and I feel like I really have not scratched the surface. Part of it is, you know, I'm living my life. So I don't always have time to go out like a tourist and be like, oh, what's behind that door and what else? But, you know, I think that there's still a lot for me to see in this town. So, yeah. So like, I know you were moving around a bit. in general, sounds like you were still traveling to different countries. When did that start? And, now that you're in Mexico and your son is, I guess you want him to kind of feel some roots somewhere, what do you envision for, just staying here for a little while?
Oh no, we're definitely staying. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I mentioned to you offline, we bought a house.
Okay.
So, first of all, in order for me to pass off the house to someone, that person does have to at least be a Mexican resident.
Oh, okay.
So,
Resident, like a permanent, temporary, or doesn't matter?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter. I say that, Lucy, I'm wrong. You can't be a temporary resident. You
Okay.
have to at least be, you can't be on a visitor's visa, is what I mean to say. So you could be temporary,
Okay.
but eventually you're going to have to kind of go permanent. And I guess what you would do is you would use the cost of the house to become a permanent resident. Gotcha. But you cannot give the property to somebody who is like from the United States, for example.
Interesting.
So, we're absolutely raising him in Mexico. We're absolutely staying because we do want at least one of our children to feel a connection to the land in which the place is. Because we bought the house, but it's actually something we're renovating right now to be a co-living space.
Nice, I love it.
So it's 4 apartments on the second and third floor terrace, and the first floor is the co-working, and then a restaurant in the front of the third floor. So it's a pretty
nice. A big
massive
plan.
Yeah, it's a big plan, hopefully contained. And it's really something that for us, we're going to be partnering with people to do. So I have 0 experience running a restaurant, so I have no intention of doing such a thing. I'm going to get the equipment and, all the things for the restaurant, but I am going to put out an RFP probably in September or October for someone to come in and run the restaurant. So I do want the restaurant specifically to be a Caribbean restaurant.
Oh, I love it. Are you?
Yeah, we're Haitian. So,
oh, beautiful. So that's your intention. You would like to have Caribbean style food.
Yes. So all of the Caribbean. So really, a little bit from Jamaica, a little bit from Trinidad, a little bit from Haiti. I love it. So just kind of a fusion of the Caribbean food without the Caribbean wait times. So we're gonna do better.
Hey girl, you're in Mexico.
That's true. But,
and for us, because I'm Jamaican, so I can talk about us. I call us the coconuts. And without the bad attitude, because I used to experience that in Florida all the time. It would be like, you walk in and you see the beautiful like fried fish and dumplings right in the little case, and then you have to wait 5 minutes for someone to come outside from the back and then slam something down on the counter. Yeah, but no, that's awesome.
You call ahead and then they tell you we don't have that, and I'm like, but I called you 5 minutes ago and you said you had it.
Oh, Lord.
So you put aside customer service. I remember my husband and I were talking, and it's funny. We didn't even know until we got older. Like, we really didn't know what customer service was, right? Because you didn't really go out to eat when you were kids, right? Because it's not like our parents did that. They cooked at home.
That's
and there
true.
was one restaurant, there used to be one Haitian restaurant in New York called La Detente. And that was the only restaurant that all Haitians went. So that was my only restaurant experience. And they weren't very excited about customer service either.
Nope.
So the very first time I went to a restaurant was probably in college. I was downright shocked. People asking me if I liked what I ate.
Right.
Like, what?
And you got good service on time.
I don't even know if it was good, but it was just service. And I was like, this is just amazing. What is all this about?
That's funny.
Like, do you want a different fork? Your fork fell on the floor. Like, I've been to restaurants, that's not my problem. Put that fork in some water and use the, use the towel to clean it off.
And then keep it going, right? Oh my gosh.
It's not their problem. So
I love it.
It was funny to learn what service was in my 20s. Because this was something I had no idea about. So there will be service, because now I know what service actually means.
You're like the new generation.
Yes,
no, I love it.
Because the food is really good.
Oh yeah.
I think part of the reason that we don't get other, I guess, cultures and people coming is because, you can only do so much of that. If you're not used to that, I go into a Jamaican restaurant and they tell me we don't have that, and I'm okay. I'm like, all right, well, we're just gonna work with it. So
yeah.
I don't feel anything. But other people, I know they must come in and be like,
or they don't come
Or
at
they
all.
don't.
Because
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, I know when I lived in, well, certainly in Connecticut, it was the same, you know. I mean, I remember there was this place that was next to the gas station. And when I tell you it was just a structure and it went straight up and it was just like really good food, horrible service, and it just looked like crap, right? But people went there, and it was
Yeah.
mostly, you know, blacks that went there, mostly people from Jamaica or whatever. And, you know, then they opened the Golden Crust, right? I'm sure you've heard of Golden Crust
Yes.
patty, and it was a little fancier and, you know, more
Yeah.
uniform. But the service has always been notorious for not being great, but the food is good. So if the food is good,
Yeah.
people will come. And it's nice when you can go and you can get both, because yeah, it just
Yes.
makes you feel better. I remember when I lived in Florida, I started kind of like a catering, and it was focused on jerk, different styles of jerk and the history behind it. And then it was fused with my experiences of traveling, because I love my heritage. I love Jamaican food, but I also love Asian food, Thai specifically. So I, you know, kind of came up with this whole concept of bringing whatever. But one of the key things that I put in my business plan was good service, right? With a smile and a good attitude, because we were so used to just, you know, people coming up to the counter and just like, what do you want? Or whatever, you know, like really
Yeah.
not friendly. And, you know, no good day or how are you? It's just always
No, they're not
slamming
concerned how
stuff.
you
Or
are.
someone's not presentable, you know, and it
Yes.
was takeout, but you went there because it tastes good. So
Yes.
I think the
Yes.
whole concept of you even just having a Caribbean restaurant in Oaxaca, I'm on that plane. So you let me know when it's open, because I'm going
Yeah,
to
no,
come and
it's
check you
necessary.
out.
There's no Korean restaurant here. I'm like,
None here
the other
either.
day, and I just like, I was begging the other day for a Jamaican beef patty. Well, I don't do beef because I'm vegetarian, but a Jamaican
Yeah.
veggie patty and
Mhm.
cocoa bread. So actually,
Yeah.
there's a Tiffany is Jamaican and she actually cooks. So
Mhm.
she made me some lentil Jamaican patties.
Is that
Bless her
Tiffany? No,
soul.
that's Teresa. I was going to say, is that Tiffany from Mexico? But no, Teresa has a Jamaican restaurant in Mexico City. Who's
Yes.
Tiffany? I need to know
So
about
Tiffany just,
Tiffany.
yeah, so Tiffany just moved here as well. Maybe I think she's been here 6, 7 months,
Oh,
and she
okay.
is she is a chef, and she's
Nice.
looking to. So she's one of the people I'm going to be talking to. So we'll see.
Good.
If nothing else, if she can't do it like full time, like run a
Mhm.
restaurant, I definitely want her to be like a guest chef for a week, because that's
Mhm.
really my concept. I want to do more of. The restaurant will be there, the menu they'll be, yeah, that's fine. But I want to bring in guest chefs from the different countries
I love
for
that.
like a week,
Mhm.
and just to kind of put out their specific fare. So really all around the Caribbean
Mhm.
is my thought process. So I want it to be a very, cheers. And like you said, the service thing is very important. But she
Mhm.
did good for me. So she made me my Jamaican lentil patties. I was like, oh,
Yum.
bless
That
your
sounds
soul.
delicious.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
so good. And I'm trying to teach the one of the bakers how to make Haitian patties. So it's a
Oh,
work in
okay.
progress,
Mhm.
because they don't use as much butter as is
Mhm.
needed, and we need to get a little flakier. So we're working through the process until
Right.
he gets it done for me. So it's interesting. It's been an interesting process because I'm learning. The house, we're completely renovating it
Mhm.
because it's a traditional Mexican house. So it's
Mhm.
the open courtyard and that kind of thing.
Oh, beautiful.
And we're renovating literally top to bottom. So
I
the only thing
love
I'm
that.
not doing is taking down walls, but
Mhm.
everything else is going. So I've
Nice.
been learning the language of house, which
Mm.
I find funny. So I'm learning skylights, and we're talking about, and even yesterday we met with the architects.
Mhm.
So where I live now is 3 blocks away from the house,
Okay.
because I got to keep my eyes on the construction. I
Yes, you
can't play
do.
games. So
Yes,
every
you do.
day,
Been
take a little
there.
walk, and gotta make sure, are these the tiles we agreed to? What are we doing here?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm talking to the architect, and I say to him, we need fans in every room, and he's looking at me like I'm crazy. He's like, well, I don't understand. I was like, we need fans, okay? We need
Right.
fans because it doesn't get crazy hot in Oaxaca,
Yeah, but if you're
but
renting spaces, you have to have the
you
guests be
need to have,
comfortable. Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, you need fans in the restaurant. The one thing I've always hated is there's flies living around your food. That has
Exactly.
always put me in a weird space. I do
Mhm.
not want to share my food with flies.
Exactly.
So, we need to make sure that this is not a shared space, right? It is
Exactly.
not a habitable environment for, anybody who's flying. If you're flying, you're gonna have to fly outside, but you just can't fly in here. you know, so he just
stay outside.
Yeah, stay outside. I was like, we need fans with some power. I was like, no little, you know, I was like, not decorative.
Exactly.
I was like, fans that work. So it's been really, and that's kind of what I say about moving too, and we talk about roots and you know, for me, we've always been, my husband and I, people who feel like we want to be of service to people. And specifically for me, the space is for people. So it's going to be no long-term spaces at all. It's 1 to 3 months. It's really for those people who are looking to explore and see if Oaxaca is right for them.
That's a
Before
great
you
idea.
sign that 1 month, that 6 month lease, you know, don't sign. Spend a month or two, get your bearings, see the neighborhoods, get a sense. Don't be in a rush. Don't let people pressure you, and know that you have a space you could be while you figure your situation out. And the co-working is obviously so there. Unlike my line here, I'm putting in fiber optics. Because I know the annoyance of, you know, you're trying to do a video call and it does this thing to you. Yeah. And you need to work too, you know. I mean, a lot of people, by the time they're exploring, they are working. So, you know, I just definitely wanted to make it easy to work. And of course, I have children, so I am building a playroom. Nice. I have children. And so, you know, and I'll be there myself. So I say I'm building it loosely. He's actually the builder of the playroom, so it's the space. So I'm 100% looking to him, and I told him, I was like, you tell me what we need in here, and we've been going and getting like little things for the room. Good. So the design will be my 7-year-old son. So
I love it. I love it. I think you guys are doing some amazing, very interesting concepts of things. I love the whole co-working space. I have a good friend here. She has a co-working space. It's definitely not kid friendly, but I think that's a great concept, you know, bring in that aspect. I know that she was considering that because she wanted to upgrade or move to somewhere else. And I think on her plans originally, she, and probably still does, she had the idea of people who want to be able to bring their kids and work for the day, especially if, like you said, you're only there for a few months at a time. Maybe you don't have like the whole daycare set up, and it also can become a place for them to learn, you know, learn the language, especially. I think that's great. I absolutely love it. I love the whole restaurant concept, or 1 week at a time chef, or whatever you end up with.
I think that's I definitely am going to do at least, you know, from time to time. Because it's going to be, so it's interesting and it's fun, you know, and so, we're just enjoying Oaxaca and what it has to offer, and just, you know, so I enjoy, you know, meeting the people and all of that. And so I just wanted to be more purposeful about it and be able to provide, you know, even things like the neighborhood tours, you know, just like how you talked about. You know, once a week of, okay, you know, we're going to go check out the different neighborhoods so you can really see this is what it is. And we specifically bought the house in a Mexican neighborhood. It is not where the expats, you know, live. And I say that so loosely because it's like, it's a really great neighborhood. It's very quiet. You know, there's no restaurant across the street there. So you can actually work for real. And, you know, the fireworks. So you were kind of far from the fireworks and all that other stuff. But I sometimes I kind of think to myself, you know, we're going to do this, right? We've already started. You know, just like you said about the gentrification, I wonder if I will end up being responsible for that neighborhood changing, right? Because it is very convenient. You know, I walk to Central and the Mercado's right there and the taxi things are right there. And, you know, but I don't deal with the Central noise. And right now there are only Mexicans who live there because they're the ones who, that's not this, you know, it's not a neighborhood that's on the list of the 4 neighborhoods that people tell you about. But as we start doing the restaurant, it's going to be a neighborhood that's becomes more known and, you know, more attractive. So we'll talk in 2 years and we'll see what happens. We'll do a but you know, I mean, I feel like change anywhere is inevitable. And I think that being an individual, you just stay conscious of making sure you are also what you have and what you benefit from. You also are able to hire people locally and pour back into the economy, and also conscious of what the plights are. Not that it's your full responsibility, but I think it's also our responsibility as foreigners who are in a more, you know, comfortable position financially
to try to pour back into our surroundings, in whatever capacity that is, and whatever that means to you. And I think that's what you're doing. I'm sure, I'm not sure, but I'm assuming you're not physically making and building this house on your own. Even if you were, that's fine too. But you're probably hiring some local folks to do this, and you're probably going to hire some local people to help you with your restaurant and help you with your co-working space. And that, to me, is you not just coming in like a corporation, pillaging the land, building, resorts. And yes, they hire the locals, but I mean, in reality, the scale of what they make compared to what they pay, it's just
it's imbalanced.
Exactly.
And it's just something I think about, because I know one of the things I like about the neighborhood is that it is Mexican, so then if 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people come around and start feeling like, let's make a deal with some other places, then it starts to change the very culture of it, and I don't want to take away the culture of the neighborhood, and I can't take away a lot, because it's a very small neighborhood. There's 900 people that live in the neighborhood, so it's really small. But the average age, I want to tell you, it's like 62, 65. So it's like, it's people who are already older.
And they've been there for a while.
And they've been there for a very long time. Even the house that I bought. So the woman we bought the house from, so she lives 2 blocks away, and all her children were born in that house. So you were talking about the history.
Wow.
So I loved talking to her. She was just like, and she's going to be the very first person we invite when the renovation is complete. Her birthday is actually in August, so they invited us to her birthday party.
Oh, nice.
And it's really, she has 8 children. All the children were born in that house. She raised all of the kids, in the house. So it's a house full of love. And that for me was a big part of what was attractive about it, because it was a space where that's the feel, that kind of comes from the ground.
Right.
So it was good, but that's who's in the neighborhood. It's families that have been there for generations.
Right.
And, so like I said, it's just something I reflect on. I definitely plan on being very respectful.
Right.
That's not going to be 4 o'clock in the morning parties.
Yeah, no, I absolutely know that. I can tell already by talking to you, that's not going to happen. And I think that, that's a nice representation for us as well, is, people may not always see our Black roots the same coming from the US because of all the negativity that the media portrays in general. But I think it's nice when, and if we come here and we create things as well, that are conscious of our surroundings, and we're also pouring back into the economy, or we're donating our time or helping in some other way. And it's not just, oh, I found a cheap place to live, because sometimes that's kind of what I think people come to Mexico just with that. It's just, oh, it's cheaper.
And we have to give, at the point that I decided to stay, I definitely knew we had to contribute and give. And I think your point is a million times correct. I am 100% cognizant of the idea that because there are so few of us here, particularly in Oaxaca, I have an outsized impact. When I deal with Oaxacans, they are learning me, but they are unconsciously or consciously learning Black people in their minds.
Yeah, true.
And so I have to, and so I'm very cognizant of that. And I understand that my behavior, how I am, is going to affect how someone else is treated in the future.
Exactly.
So I'm just nice to people anyway, because that's just my thing. But, I'm very cognizant about being respectful, and very cognizant about not, one, not nickel and diming people, but also, I do let them know when I know what the right price is too. So
of course, you have to.
So I walk the line, but I know that as Oaxaca grows and as more of us grow, even if I don't talk to each person who comes in, every time I have an interaction, especially when I have these continued interactions and they start to know me more and more, they're going to start to place more emphasis on how they assume people are based on how I am, and how they see my kids, and how they see my husband.
True.
So, and then those kind of impressions tend to be, forever.
They are.
And hard to change. So then it becomes, if somebody does something stupid, it becomes, oh, that person individualistically did something stupid, but not the whole group. than something
Exactly.
ridiculous.
Exactly.
So
And I
I,
think that's a good way to walk. I think that's a good way for all of us to walk. And, and like I said, come here with better intentions, and to make things that are lasting in a positive way, a lasting positive impression on our host country, because I just always say for myself, I know that it can be frustrating. I hear a lot of people or see a lot of people online complaining about things. And I've had this in other conversations with some of my other interviews, but I really feel like, we all need to walk in grace and have like really more patience about other cultures, especially if you move to a new space that things just don't always operate the same exact way. And yes, there are times when we want to blow a gasket, right? Like just step away from it at times and not blow those gaskets because you feel like it should be more American or more Americanized or more what you're accustomed to in the US. So, I hope that people will kind of put that jacket on and, just understand the different culture and also the impressions, like you said, that could be lasting and damaging. You can either be positive or negative.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But you understand why we feel like this, right? Because we're used to no service. From the
Exactly.
restaurants, so we have been trained to be
We're
patient
broken down, girl.
Yes. By the time we show up in Mexico and somebody says Buenos tardes, we're like, whoa.
We're like, what?
You guys are
They
nice.
spoke.
What?
Yeah. No, I think the Mexican people are very kind, and very polite and sweet. I have, even with the mask on, that whole COVID going to mask, it was weird, because people are used to greeting, you give a kiss on the cheek and all that. And now it's just like, initially it was so strange because I felt like people weren't even giving each other eye contact. And I feel that that's come back a little bit. I notice when I go to places, I still get the buenas tardes. People are still trying to make eye contact, even though you can't see the full face. But the warmth and the energy is still exist. And I love that about Mexico. I love it about here in a smaller town. I'm sure you experienced this as well. It's just, people are just friendly, they're kind and they're not miserable. I mean, every now and then, I think the norm is friendly. And every now and then you'll run into people who just don't, they don't look at you, period. They just keep,
well, even then sometimes like, and it's probably, so I do this for two reasons. One, because I'm like, you should change people's physiology, but two, I'm like, that might be the gangster person. So if I see somebody walking down the street and they've got that gangster look on their face, I will give them the most enthusiastic buenos tardes they've ever seen in their lives.
Exactly.
And to their credit, they always say it back. So my thinking is, one, if you thought about robbing me, like we just finished having this whole conversation, right? So
right.
Are you really about to, so I changed your whole flow, so we're done with that. We're gonna have to keep on moving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we're gonna change this physiology. So sometimes I will see people with like the mean grill, and I'll be like, buenos tardes, and they'll give it back to me hard though, like buenos tardes. Yeah. I'm like, we talk, so I don't care.
Right.
You don't have
it's
to
all
smile,
good, right? We're friends now. That's it. My amigo.
Yes. So it's been good. I love it. Like I said, I love it. It's all not for everyone. I always say, find your space, because there's a place that's yours and that speaks to you. Mm-hmm. Don't feel like it's the end. You didn't just, oh man, I found my place and I'm done. There's so much to explore. Even in Mexico, it's going to take me years to go around to the. I've got
my list is like this long.
Oh no, it's crazy. I want to go to the carnival in Mazatlan.
Oh my gosh, I have not heard about that.
Oh, it's supposed to be the best here in Mexico, so I'm gonna just make my reservations now.
When is it?
It's in February, so
okay.
So it's right before Lent.
Okay.
So I've got to do that, but I also need to go to the carnival in Barranquilla in Colombia, because that's supposed to be the best in the world.
Okay.
So I promised my father I was going to take him there. So I got all these things. I have like this long list of places. Plus your place, plus your restaurant. Plus my place. So I'm not
girl,
bored.
you're busy.
Yeah,
you got a lot to accomplish. Yeah. No, it's funny because I have my list for places I want to just see, because I like to travel. And, I am really in a place, I was telling my husband this, my dad and my mom. My dad doesn't want to hear it too much because we're supposed to do this thing in October. And I'm just like, I'm not leaving Mexico right now. I feel like last year I didn't get to do a lot of things I wanted to. the first 2 years of living here, we were just busy. I mean, it takes a little while to settle in, you know, and I know you know this because you're building and you're really involved and fully immersed at the moment. But I just feel like there's so much I want to visit and see in Mexico. Some of it's seasonal. And I am seriously, with COVID, I feel so I just want to get in my car. I want to take like 1 or 2 month road trips, and I just want to stop wherever the heck I stopped. And, you know, I just want to see things here. I really feel like I want to explore this country more and more. I've seen a lot, but I still think that there are so many things that I can't find in a guidebook and things I cannot find online. And I just want to get out there and discover them. So yeah, my family, I'm like, if you guys want to see me, you got to come to Mexico. Cause I'm seriously, if I can avoid it and there's no emergency, I'm not going to the US right now. I'm done.
Yeah, and I've sent my parents tickets for Thanksgiving, and I've already explained, you know.
Yeah.
My mother told me one of the stations, she was like, one of these are mine. I was like, all right, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to keep you. I feel like I've kept you so long.
No, it's
so
okay, Suki.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to send
forever.
you, I'll send a link to you for the Oaxaca Living Guide.
Yes,
so you can include it.
Yes.
And so just explain the guide just a touch.
Yes.
It is exactly what it says, living. So there's not really a lot of the touristy stuff, but it's like where you get to the dentist and where the movies are, and just to really give you a sense of all the different things in Oaxaca. Because like you said, we do have the stores and the Walmart and the this, and we even have a go-kart place that I have to find my way, you know, over to, and a water park. So there are all these things that I even haven't had a chance to go to just yet. So sometimes I go through my own book and I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta go there. And there's a zoo, you know, 30 minutes away. So there's like all this stuff here, but it's very hard to find because it's not, no one talks about living, you know.
Right.
If you come for 3 months, there's nothing wrong with getting your teeth done, you know. My dentist person is very committed to my teeth being as white as possible, bless me. You know, and I have no problem with that. So it's a hassle to go find. So basically the way that I compiled the list, it's 100% recommended. So it was a major project, probably took me 6 months. But I basically went online and looked for people who were recommended by 5 or more people.
Good.
And that's who made it into the book.
I love it. Okay.
If they're there, they were recommended by someone. So I'm still not vouching. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm vouching for folks. I'm just saying.
But you put it together. You're making life easier for whomever.
Yes. So
I love it.
Quick guide. Again, if you want to do a 2-3 month stay, and you know, this will give you the maximum value for your stay. Before you come, go through the guide, do your checklist, what you want to do and see, hang out with us for 2-3 months, and then, you know, kind of make your decision. You'll have a really good basis of which to make your decision as you compare to other states and cities.
I love it. I love it. Yes, send it to me. And shoot me also like the cover, because I love the cover. I know you were still working out the details and stuff. I'm actually working on one for San Miguel, but from a travel standpoint. And but I think this whole concept is amazing. And I think it's also interesting to get it from our perspective. You know, it's like, these are the things that I enjoy doing and why, and blah, blah, blah. But and anything else, like tell me, you know, if you want me to post anything about your co-working space or a page online or a website.
Yeah, well, once we're open, it's called El Soleil, but once we're open, so I have been chronicling the process. So I've been videotaping everything from the looking for places to our final signing to, you know, everything. And once we're about a month from being open, I'm going to start uploading it on YouTube. So for anyone who's buying property in Mexico, you know, just what I learned, what I didn't, you know, and I don't know if I didn't learn, I guess I can't share it, but, you know, even little things, like I went through 4 different architects, and it took me through the 3rd one before one of them made a comment to me about how the bathroom fixtures weren't included. And I had no idea. I'm like, this is a lot of money that you're asking me for. So I was like, well, I'm sorry, are we talking about putting up walls for this much money? Because that can't be what we're talking about, right? Like, I need some toilets and sinks, you know, because what's the point of all of this? So then I need to start going back to the others and start asking the questions. Wait, are we talking fixtures? What kind of materials are we talking about? So as I kept dealing with the different architects, I started to understand the questions to ask of the other ones.
Right.
And then to your point of finding someone local, and you know, the whole American price thing is so real. You know,
Yes.
it took me to the fourth person to get someone who was willing to do it for the budget that I laid out in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And the others kept saying to me, oh, once you do your renovation, they were doing HGTV on me, like Property Brothers. Oh, once you put in this much money, it'll be valued at this. What are you talking about? One, I'm not selling. So that's a waste of my time. Exactly. This is Mexico. There's no such thing as pulling equity out of your house.
Exactly.
So what do I care? And then on top of that, I have to find someone who's going to be willing to pay that much more money for a house. The more expensive the house gets, the smaller your pool gets.
Exactly.
So no,
I need it for this price, period.
Yeah, this phantom number that you're giving me about, you know, oh, but it'll be worth this. I was like, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now.
Exactly.
We're talking about you take care of my house. So it really took time for us to get there. And even to your point about being nice and how they do business, you know, I'm very, this is my budget. Can we do it? If you know you can't right now, let's not engage anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to, you know, but they wanted to have like 4 or 5 meetings. We met at this restaurant, that restaurant, you know. By the 5th meeting, I was like, look, I'm not meeting you without you telling me what we're talking about number-wise.
Exactly.
And if you can't tell me, then I'm not showing up.
Exactly.
Just not happening.
Yeah.
You know? So
it's a process. It's a process. I mean, I definitely have been there, built a house back in Oaxaca on the beach. And it was a process, and it took a long time because it was just more manual. It was like a 3-year building process, and it was because it was more manual, but there were all those, like, you know, little in-betweens, and just, you know, things are just done differently. You know, it's like, oh, we need electricity here. Oh, okay, we got to dig back into the wall. So I think that that's a whole nother conversation to have. And I would absolutely love for you to either get back online with me and discuss it when it's done, and show us all of your, you know, uploaded information, because I think there are people who will, you know, invest in land and build or remodel and things like that. And I think it's important for people to understand that, you know, things are not laid out here on the table. You really have to kind of fight for it. And you also have to really communicate. You have to over communicate here to get the results that you're looking for. Otherwise it can send you running back home with your tail between your legs. It's that complicated. I've been there. I have literally been there. So.
Well, really quickly before I let you go, what happened to the house?
Oh, it's still there. It's still there.
Oh, so you have a beach house all this time?
No, I don't have it. It was with my ex, but yes, it was definitely an experience, and it's still there. It's still there. It's beautiful. It's close to Puerto. Yeah, the village of Puerto, somewhere in between Huatulco and Mazunte.
Oh, so it's like there was so much foresight there, because like before, once they do this road thing, all of those properties will now be outrageously, you know, it'll be the same being able to do
I know. It will definitely go up in value for sure. Just the convenience of being able to get to the airport in another city. I mean, Huatulco is actually pretty international, but there are only some flights that go direct to Huatulco, and those are mostly out of Texas.
Or Canada if you're going, you know, that too. Way. But they're rebuilding Puerto's airport too, so that should be done next year, 2022.
Oh, okay.
They've got big plans, so we'll
see. It's changing. Yeah, prices are going up as we talk about it. I know.
I'm so glad I bought already, because I was like, oh boy. Even after we bought, I watched prices go up from the time that we bought. So I was like, I'm so glad we did it. Like when we did. So
it's worth it.
It was good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Suki. I so appreciate so much of your time. And I appreciate you making all these extra, you know, kind of, you know, explanations about everything, and all the discussions, I think, will definitely help people understand Oaxaca, the different things that are happening in Oaxaca, you know, what's still authentic about Oaxaca, but you can still, you know, have your modern things if you're interested in that as well. and just your experiences there. I think it's a beautiful thing. And you're making me kind of want to go back and visit. So when that restaurant's open, I'll definitely make sure I hop on a
yes,
plane.
we will do a nice invite only 1 week opening. So
Ooh, I love it.
and epic. Yes.
I
I'll
love
invite the
it.
neighbors though. I'm not gonna be like the other people. Well, the neighbors are invited, so we're not making noise and you're not invited. So
that's true. Well, thanks again. I appreciate your
welcome. Thank
time.
you.
All right, have a great day.
Okay. You too.
Bye.
Enjoy. Bye-bye.
Bye.